So I was reading two Bible stories that kind of made me think about who do you go to when you need an answer or need help, but you don't feel like you're hearing from God, or you don't feel like the people that are surrounding or are supposed to be able to help you are able to help you. And I had the strangest dream where it felt like an island. Like I was helped to an island, but once I got inside like the homes of the island, it was really dark and a lot of like altars set up for what is considered witchcraft. But when I got to the last lady that was supposed to be helping, you can tell she was a witch, but she was trying to help me feel like I could get back to what I would consider home. So at the it felt like the end of the island, but it looked like the end of her house. So I'm looking outside the window of the end of her house, and you can see people trying to go through customs to cross the border. And I'm looking at this, but as I'm talking to the lady is telling me, like, everything's okay, like, just order you some food. And to me, that was a little strange because I was on this island with nothing. So I was like, how am I going to be able to order food if I don't have anything? And she was like, you can use credit. You can just charge it to credit. It'll be all right. You can just charge it to credit. And I'm looking through this window and I'm thinking to myself, if I was able to make it this far without needing anything, and I can literally see customs right there through the window, walking distance, and I see people going to customs to try to get over the border, like, why would I stay here and incur a debt? Like, to me, in my mind, using a credit card to pay for food sound like accruing debt to me. So I told the lady, I was like, no, I'm gonna try to go to the border controller customs to see if they'll allow me to go back home, because I looked a little further over the entryway and I saw a church. And seeing the church really what made me realize it was home or the States is the fact that it was, that might not be a good reason, but for me, it was a Catholic church. And the way it was written out was in English. So I was like, okay, that's a U.S. border. That's a U.S. custom control. Like, I should be able to explain how I got here, and they should help me get back to the U.S. side. So I thanked the lady, and I was just like, I'm going to try my luck. I'm going to try to see if they'll help me get back over to the other side. I'm going to try to go through the border. And I was hugging the lady that helped me get to, I'm just going to call her what she was, a witch. I was hugging the lady that helped me get to the witch, and I was just thanking them for helping me to get to that point to be able to go to where I was trying to get to. And when I woke up, I was really confused about the dream because in the dream itself, you would think that if you're dreaming about witches and you seeing demonic altars and you're in a place that's not home, the whole thing should just be demonic. But within the dream, it didn't feel demonic. It looked demonic, but it didn't feel demonic. The only thing that felt demonic was the lady trying to make me think that buying food on a credit card would help me more so than just explaining that border control is right there and they should really be able to help you get back to where you were trying to be at. To me, it felt like a manipulation to stay in bondage. So I woke up thinking about Saul reaching out to the witch to consult Samuel for him. So by this time, Samuel had passed away, and that's usually who Saul went to kind of inquire about God when he felt like he wasn't hearing from God. God had literally told Saul he was leaving him. Like, Saul had made God so upset with not listening to him that he literally told him that he was going to depart from him, and Saul wasn't hearing from God. So because of this, Saul still was going through a lot of battles. Like, they were going through literal battles, and usually God would tell Saul if he would, win them or not. But God wasn't listening or answering Saul. So Saul went to this witch, and at this point, he banished all witches from the area that they were in. So he had to go out his way to seek this witch to be able to summon Samuel, who was dead, to be able to ask him questions because he felt like he wasn't getting responses from God. So what was so significant that stood out the most to me in that whole encounter is the fact that the witch was able to summon Samuel. So I was just like, that's supposed to be demonic. Samuel is supposed to be a child of God, and the witch was able to bring his spirit from the realm that they go to when you pass away to be able to come back and talk to Saul because he asked the witch to bring her back. So from a logical, just a simple good versus bad, or in that type of thought process, it doesn't make sense. How can something bad be able to bring up something good? But somehow it was allowed, and Saul had a conversation with Samuel. And if you want to read about that, that's 1 Samuel 28. Then I look at another situation where there's a centurion who has so he said his servant was at home paralyzed and suffering. And he asked Jesus to heal him. But Jesus asked him, should he go with him to heal him? And the man's just like, no, I'm a man of authority myself, so I know that with your authority, all you have to do is say a word and he's healed. And because of that thought process, it amazed Jesus that, one, he honored him enough to realize the type of authority he had. And then two, he sucked out his authority to be able to receive that type of healing. And Jesus respected it and was just like, you know what? Go and let it be done just as you believed. Now, I don't know the significance of a centurion, but the Bible points out little details like that for a reason. Saul went and seeked out, the Bible called her a medium, but I kept calling her a witch. But still, Saul went and seeked out a witch to be able to, hear from God for what he was wanting. But this man went and sought out Jesus to be able to receive healing for another person. But it was still spiritual authority being able to do things naturally based off those spiritual principles. If you want to read that Bible story, that's Matthew 8, verse 5 through 13. And all I could think about is with how much the lines of things are being blurred in this time that we're in, just how important it is for who you're seeking out or going to in those times of uncertainty. I know I don't have the full language to explain the understanding I have, but there's a group of people that don't want to acknowledge the significance or the importance of Jesus and his position of authority. But if you go read Hebrews, you more than likely can just read the whole book. But if you want to start from chapter 6, verse 13, and just read it all the way to the end, it explains the order of his authority and why it was set in place and how it completes what God put in place to, I'm going to say, demolish those blurred lines that are trying to take place. It even goes into detail of the Old Testament's, the people in the Old Testament exercising the same faith that us believers of the new covenant are living out. And it even goes to explain how those people died before being able to receive this promise. But here we are living in the promise, despite there being people that literally lived with the person of the promise. And even those people that lived at the time of the promise, Jesus himself was explaining or emphasizing the importance of that faith authority combination that solidifies his existence and the reason for his being. Now, I am a lady that has dabbled in many of things, but what I'm grateful for is always coming back to that solid foundation. So many other things are faulty, and so many other things look like or feel like they could be beneficial or placed there to be helpful, but in some sense behind it, you always know there's something that's still trying to force you in some type of bondage with it. But you don't feel that way when it comes to Christ. Like, he truly sets you free if you can get the actual understanding of who he is and his authority and what he was sent here to do. And because there are people that fall short of his glory, it has outsiders feeling like that we don't really honor what he did, and because of that abuse of grace, it makes it easier for them to justify that their reasonings on why they don't think what he did was so important or who he is of being as important as he is, because the people that fall from the faith aren't walking in what they believe in. But all that does is further establish who Jesus is. Because we keep falling short, because we're human, we're flesh, and we're not able to, him being able to, while he was human and flesh, shows the difference between who we're striving to be like versus who he came here in the flesh as he is. So when I'm finding myself in these questionable situations, I'm not questioning who Jesus is. I'm questioning my faith in what I believe in. Like, where am I falling short in the faith that I have of what I believe in? And sometimes I can see the solution quickly, and I'm running to God and I'm asking for forgiveness, or I'm utilizing the authority of Jesus to be able to bring me back to the safety of the covenant. And then there's other times where I feel like I'm in too deep and I'm blinded by the deception that's trying to lock me into bondage, that I forget about the foundation that has already been set and laid out. But the truth remains the truth no matter what deception is thrown into the mix. So when I remember who Jesus is, when I remember his authority, when I remember that I'm under that covenant, I don't have to be afraid. I don't have to feel like I'm too far gone. I don't have to feel like I'm ensnared in these traps, because that's just the deception that's trying to engulf me in denying the fact of the simplicity of the truth. So like the son that ran off and squandered his inheritance, realizing that his father is a king and he can run back to him, going to him thinking of a mindset of I'll be his servant, but returning home and his father receiving him as a son is that same thing. No matter how you feel in the situation, it doesn't change who God is in the entirety of this everything. And because God has so much foresight and good intentions for us, he orchestrates everything in a way for anybody to be able to still understand or come under what his intentionality is for everyone. So if you have that mindset of authority and following rules and being under laws and those type of thought processes, he still explains it in a way for you to understand that he's still that type of God. But if you want to live like that, he can make it like that. But then he also opened it up for those who just want to believe and walk in who he is as the Father, and allows us to live freely as his children. He's graced us with the freedom to walk like that as well. And that's because that's just how good he is and how much bigger he has planned for that mustard seed. But that's all I got for y'all for now. Until next time.